Alright everyone, welcome back to another video. Glad to see you here for another one. As always, thank y'all for the recent love on the videos we've been showing. We just hit 600 subscribers, so thank you guys so much. We're on the way to 1,000. Obviously, when we hit 1,000, we're gonna have to do like a big, special little video for you guys to thank you and commemorate the milestone. But nonetheless, this video, we're going to be talking about some more ground. We're gonna be talking about battle ratings and all things that have to do with ground and battle ratings, things you should know going into it if you are a ground player, or if you're a naval player or an air player that's trying to get into ground, or if you're just a new player in general. We're going to be dropping some tips and things you should probably think about before making certain lineups or making certain mistakes that a lot of people make, myself included. So even if you're a veteran, or again if you're just new, hopefully some things in this video will help you out. I know that we also were talking about a giveaway in the last video, so stay tuned to the end of this video to see if you won from the giveaway that we did about 2 weeks ago. I'm going to spin a wheel, have 2 names on it, 2 winners will be getting 1,000 GE, and that'll happen at the end of the video. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it and get some tips and tricks out of the way. Woo! Alright, so the first thing that we're going to go ahead and talk about in regards to battle ratings is that you need to know the matchmaking spread for your BR and your lineup. So a lot of vehicles face either +1 up or +1 down. Myself personally, I would recommend making a lineup that if you get a full up tier every single game, which you literally will, you need to have a vehicle that can give you the best chance of survival or that you can do the best with. Because if you have a lineup and you're like, well, this will do, like if you're playing 5.0 and you're like, well, this will do good against 5.0 tanks, how will it do against 6.0 tanks? How will it do against 5.7 tanks? You always need to prepare for the worst case scenario. That way, if you do get a full up tier, you're prepared, because again, that happens a lot, rather than trying to prepare for a down tier, because that's probably gonna not happen that often, so you don't really need to worry about it. You're rarely ever gonna get your own BR as well. So I would say when you're making a lineup, ask yourself, can this vehicle stand on its own in a full up tier? Now, obviously, many things can't. That's why they're in the BR that they're in. So if you're playing a 5.0 vehicle, it might not do the best against 6.0, but you have to still figure out what 5.0 can do the best against it, because you need to be prepared, because it's better to be prepared and do the best you can rather than be like, oh, well, I'll be fine. And then you just get freaking dunked on every single game because you're not thinking ahead in regards to worst case scenario situations. Now, the second tip is that you need to use entire lineups and not just a single vehicle. You need to build a lineup around a BR, not just a single strong vehicle that you have in your lineup. So having good tanks, good planes, SPAA, some light tanks, whatever you want to play, but make sure you have a decent couple vehicles that can let you fulfill different roles, rather than just saying, well, I have this one tank, that's all I got, take it or leave it. Premium players. You need to have multiple things, so that way if you die in your heavy tank and the team needs SPAA, you can do that. If you need to die and get into a plane so you have good cast or anti-cast, you can do that. So that way you're not bringing your 8.7 premium tank to top tier and all you have is a freaking biplane. Like, you can do that, but like, you're not actually going to be able to help your team do anything. So make sure, again, if you are making a lineup, don't just bring one strong vehicle. Do the best that you can to have a decent lineup where, again, you can fulfill multiple roles, whether that be medium tanking, heavy tanking, flanking in a light tank to scout, anti-air to shoot down planes and keep your Eurocast up in the air, but also your team alive so they don't get freaking dunked on by bombs, because we all hate that. So just make sure, again, you're making an entire lineup, not just one vehicle. You have a bunch of crews. Even if you are a free-to-play player, you have at least, if I'm not mistaken, 5 crews. So make sure you're filling up every single slot with something that can actually add value to not only your lineup, but to your team. The next tip is going to be avoid battle rating trap zones. And what I mean by that is there are some BRs that are insanely common for up tiers, pretty much every BR ever, to be honest with you, but you just need to be prepared for certain BRs you're probably gonna just hate. Like 6.7, you usually get up to 7.7 a lot, and once you get to certain BRs, you will know, especially in ground, I mean, I'm sure it happens in planes, but we are talking about ground in this video, that getting full up tiers when you're in like a old tank and you're facing like a stabilized tank, like I think a lot of it happens from 8.0 up. Like if you're at 8.0 to 9.0, 9.0 to 10.0, those full up tiers are an insane difference for vehicle performance. So you really have to be careful when playing BRs that are in those hot spots. Again, like 6.7 I know is a big one for it. 7.7, I actually don't get that many 7.7. So I'd probably say like 6.7, 8.7 I actually get a decent amount of down tiers in. So I'd say usually 8.0 and up, you probably will get an up tier every single game. So be prepared, even at the lower BRs. Make sure that you are aware of not only your vehicle's battle rating, but other ones that are above you, because as we talked on the first point, every vehicle can either get a 0.1 added or a 0.1 coins subtracted. So you're either going to be playing a full up tier or a full down tier. There are sometimes you get like in the middle where it's like 0.3 or, you know, you get like a 0.7. So that does happen, but usually it's either full up or full down. That's usually what it is. So just be very aware of that. Don't do anything where you're like, well, this will be fine because I can do good against things that are my BR, because you're really never going to play your own BR. As well as the trap zones area, there are some nations that jump big spots that have nothing there, whether that be a light tank area or a tank destroyer area. It really happens a lot with anti-air, so please be aware of that. It does suck. You can play those BRs without having anti-air, but it can be really annoying when your team isn't playing anti-air or they're just not doing the best and you can't even help because you have a 5-7 anti-air in your 8.0 lineup. So it can really suck, but just be aware that there's sometimes certain spots on certain nations where you're going to be lacking certain vehicles like anti-air, tank destroyers, light tanks, heavy tanks, medium tanks, because that nation just doesn't have anything at that spot yet. So be very, very, very careful of that because it can really get annoying really fast. The fourth thing that we're going to talk about is decompression. You need to pay attention to the change logs, or, you know, a Reddit post, or being on a server with a streamer that like talks about it, or just watching other streamers, you know, or YouTube videos where you're paying attention to the BRs that get changed, because there are times when you'll have such a good lineup and then like one or two of the vehicles in that lineup get changed by either going up or down, which can change the entire lineup's chemistry. So if you were paying attention to the recent one that we just had, Russia's A7 lineup, the Object 435, the T55, both got moved up to 9-0. So that kind of ruins your 8-7 Russia lineup if you had one. I definitely did. Same thing happened with the PGZ09 for China. It was 8-3, so if you had an 8-3 lineup, you really had a strong anti-air. Now, the WZ is goated, but the PGZ09 was like China's Gepard at 8-3, but it just got moved up to 8-7. So now it kind of puts you in a spot to where it's like you either have to play a higher BR now or go without an anti-air, that anti-air specifically. So you always have to be careful, because that can even happen to premium vehicles, event vehicles, or tech tree vehicles. The BRs are always susceptible for change. So while you may have a vehicle now it's really good, in a month or two it could not be good anymore because now it's getting put in a higher BR and you get more up tier. So just be really careful about that. Enjoy stuff while you can, because usually nothing good lasts forever. So Fuji players. Now another point that we're going to talk about is premium vehicles. I really hound in on these because you have to pay real money to get these things. So I really think it's important that you guys think about stuff like this when you're spending your hard-earned money on these things. You need to consider what you're buying carefully. Not only does this kind of tie into the decompression thing where BRs change, but just because you buy a premium vehicle doesn't mean it's going to be doing good, especially when you're buying a premium vehicle at 8-7 or 6-7 or 7-0 and you get full up tiers. So really your 6-7 vehicle, you need to be thinking about playing 7-7. If you're playing a 8-7 premium, you need to think about playing 9-7. So even though you have a premium vehicle that may do good at its BR, you have to think, how good is it going to do if it's not at its BR? Because when you're in a tech tree vehicle, that only costed you your time and sanity. Now, using a premium vehicle, you paid to still lose your time and sanity. So I really think that's important, because a lot of people get the conception that just because you're in a premium vehicle, it's busted or it's super broken or super good, when that can kind of be the case sometimes, even with event vehicles. But with the way the up tiers have been lately, it doesn't really matter what vehicle you're in. You're never playing the BR that your vehicle is at. So you can either do that for free and hate yourself, or you can pay money and still hate yourself. So it's up to you if you want to pay and get a bad vehicle in an up tier, or just do it for free and get a bad vehicle in an up tier. It doesn't really matter. It's up to you. Just please be aware of that, because there's a lot of people that buy a premium vehicle. You're like, why is it not too good? Why is it whatever? Well, because you're not really playing the BR that it's actually at, because again, things can go up or down, and it's usually up. So just be aware of that when you're buying a premium vehicle, because not only again can the BR for that change, but you have to be thinking, can this perform well in a full up tier? All right, so another thing that we're going to talk about is that you have to pay attention to the air RB and the ground RB battle ratings. Now this only applies to air, or it only applies to planes if you're going to be using them for cast or anti-cast, because they changed it. I don't remember when, but it was like a while ago that they added this, that planes that have certain loadouts, so it usually happens at the higher BRs, you don't see it too much at the lower ones, but at the higher BRs, certain planes have a higher battle rating in air and a lower one in ground, or a few of them even have a higher rating in ground and a lower one in air. So you really need to pay attention to the battle ratings. It'll show you, if you look at the plane, it'll show you the battle rating for air and the battle rating for ground. That way you can be aware. It'll also automatically change it when you're in either the ground battles mode or the air battle mode. It'll automatically change the BRs that you're looking at the vehicles for, but still showcase the other ones. I think there might also be a showcase for naval, but we're just not even gonna talk about naval. I'm gonna keep making fun of naval. I don't care. I play it sometimes, but we all that's a low-hanging fruit for all of us that we're all gonna beat up. But anyways, just pay attention to that, because there's certain times when you're either really excited to have a play in your lineup because it's fun in air, then you try to play it in ground, it's either like too low or too high, or vice versa, you know what I mean? So you just got to be careful about that, because you don't want to bring something that's too low or it's too high, because then it'll ruin your lineup, or you just can't even use it. So just be aware of that, and make sure to pay attention to the battle ratings for planes that you bring into your lineup, so that way you can make sure that you're not having to up to yourself too much or lose out by down tiering just a little bit. Now, another thing that is a big point, in my opinion, probably one of the most important ones, is that you need to know when to down tier. And what I mean by that is that sometimes you don't always have to be playing the biggest, best lineups you have. And by biggest and best, I mean like the most modern vehicles, like top tier, 9-3, 10-7, or whatever. You don't always have to play that. You can play something that's a little bit lower of a BR, because there's some days where playing a high BR or even a low BR is just not the move, or even a certain nation. So just make sure that if you're having bad times, bad games at a certain BR, you can know, okay, this is not working out. Let me switch to a different BR. Let me switch to a lower one, a higher one. Let me switch nation. Don't just force yourself to play the same BR over and over and over again if the games aren't going good. Because there are certain days where just a BR is just not cooking for you. And that's okay. Sometimes having a good day at 5-7, 6-7 is way better than playing 9-3 and getting 10-3 games all day. I'm telling you from personal experience, sometimes going down to the middle BRs and just driving around your little Tiger or your little Super Pershing is a lot better than driving around your Abrams or your freaking HSTVL and just getting Venom dunked on. But to each their own. I just think that that's super important, because there's times where that has been the game changer in my experience playing the game, when the higher BR games just weren't working and I played like 7-0 America. Hey, you can't go wrong with 7-0 America. I don't care what anybody has to say. T29, I love it. Now, one of the last things that I'm going to talk about, again, I normally try to only have a few points, because I don't want to sit here for 30 minutes, talking y'all's ears off. So I try to pick a few key points. That way I can say kind of my piece, and hopefully you guys in the comments will drop some other things that you think is important as well, so that people can learn. I think my final point on it is that you need to watch for BR gaps. What I mean by that is you need to avoid lineups where you have different BRs in your lineup. You can do 0.3. I think that's more doable than having a 0.7 or a whole BR down or up for your vehicles is necessary. Now, it is a little bit different when you're using like planes, because you can bring like certain, you can probably like a 6.0 bomber into like a 7.0 lineup if you want. But the thing you need to worry about is if your max BR vehicle is 7.0 and you're bringing in 6.0 vehicles, those 6.0 vehicles are now susceptible to be playing against 8.0 vehicles. Because again, if you remember, we talked earlier in the video, there's a +1 or -1 BR every time you match make. So you have to be very careful about that. It goes for every single BR. So if you have a 5-3 play in your lineup or 5-3 tank, and you're also bringing like 4.0 stuff, then you could be facing 6-3 vehicles. So be very careful. My suggestion is keep everything the exact same BR as much as possible. Again, if you have to do anything, 0.3 is the only thing I would suggest. Anything plus that, you kind of start getting into sketchy territory, because again, you're not really gonna be playing your same BR. So you really want to be careful, because again, if you're playing 7.0 vehicles as your max and you got 6.0 in there, then instead of getting a +1 up tier, you're getting +2. So really be careful about that, because it really sucks when you have vehicles that are just that low in a lineup where you have one vehicle that's your good one, because your lower tier vehicles just really aren't going to be able to compete in a full up tier or even at that BR. Because if you think about it, if 7.0 is your max vehicle but you got 6.0 vehicles in there, every single match you're pretty much playing a full up tier with your lower ranked vehicles. So that's just something you got to be aware of. I don't mean like the meme vehicles and stuff like that. We all, God mode, get 30,000 SL, or like there's certain vehicles that are pretty decent at the hot, like up tier doesn't really affect them too much. But on average, I would say you want to keep the BRs the exact same if possible. Max you want to try to run is a 0.3 difference, so that way the differential isn't causing too much riffraff between the vehicles that you have and the performance that you can have in game. All right, everyone. So I do want to go ahead and say I totally forgot about two big points that I want to, well, not really big points, but I think like honorable mentions to help you in regards to knowing what battle rating you are in the middle of a match, or at least at the start. So my first thing would be is to memorize the tank BRs of other nations, things that you'll be regularly facing, or even just play those nations, so that way it'll just be second nature to realizing what BR these vehicles are. So that way if you see them on your team, you'll know what BR you're in. But the more important one, maybe the easier one I'd also say, is pay attention to the score that it takes to spawn in at the start of the match. If it costs more to spawn in, that means you are in a lower BR. If you're If it costs less to spawn in, that means you're in a higher BR. So if it costs 100 spawn points to get into the match, that means you're in a full up tier. And if it costs 150 spawn points to spawn in, that means you're in a full down tier. And then sometimes in between that is when there'll be other point values, which can mean you're in a 0.3 up tier, down tier, or 0.7 up tier, down tier. So make sure to pay attention to your score at the start of the match on how much it costs to spawn in. And again, also try to memorize the tank BRs of other nations if possible. Alright guys, we have made it to the end of another video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope some of these tips found you guys and helped you, even if you're new or a veteran. If you do have anything you think that I left out that you think is very important, please drop in the comments down below so that way people can come in behind you and learn from you. Because again, as always, what do I say? More knowledge is power, so the more the merrier. So drop a comment down below if you think there's something that should have been mentioned that was not. Without further ado, I know some of you guys are really itching to see who won the giveaway, so we're gonna go ahead and jump into that. I bet a few of you goobers out there just skip to the end to see if you won. So let's go ahead and just get into it. There's again gonna be 2 winners. The first one is going to be Spoon Killer 30. He's on PC. He's going to be getting 1000 GE, so congrats to Spoon Killer. And the second one is going to be G4. Actually, name is Ghana or Jana. I'm sorry for mispronouncing, but his name is G4 on Twitch, if I'm not mistaken. So shout out to both of you guys. Thank y'all for joining up in the giveaway. These are the only 2 people that actually joined the giveaway, so it was just really funny to see that we had 2 people that were going to win and only 2 people joined. So I'm like, this is going to be such a hard I wonder who's going to win the spin the wheel. You know what I mean? I didn't even do the spin the wheel. I was going to do a spin the wheel, but there's no point if there's just 2 people that are entered. So thank you guys for joining. We're gonna be doing some more in the future, so make sure to stay tuned on how to join and the requirements and things like that, so that way you can maybe win 1000 GE or a pack or something else, who knows. But thank you guys for all the love in the recent videos and the support. We just hit 600 subs again, as mentioned, so that means a lot. We're on our way to 1000. Can't wait to see you guys there. I'm gonna go ahead and DM both of these guys, or if they pop into Twitch first, I'll go ahead and let them know they won, so I can send them the 1000 GE. So don't worry, I'll be posting the proof in Discord as well, so that way you guys know that I actually gave it to them. But thank you guys for all the love. Hope y'all have a blessed one. Mother's Day is coming up. Make sure to hold your moms tight. Tell them you love them. Doesn't matter what you got going on. You never know when our time is up. So go ahead and show them some love. Show yourself some love and have a blessed and safe weekend. Love you guys. See you later. Peace.